Father Eamonn with you here for our 11:15 morning Chatechesis here on Tuesday the 12th of October. So nice to have your company here today. Shout out to everybody on Facebook and YouTube live as well. Lovely to have you, and greetings to all our dear Spanish listeners. I know we have some there. Nuestra Señora del Pilar is the feast day today. Jesus appropriately on our mixing list. So I believe it's a day, a bank holiday, what we would call a bank holiday here. It's the feast of the Virgin of the Pilar, the day Christopher Columbus first sighted American land, and when the first Mass in the Americas was celebrated. And she's patron of Spain and all Hispanic peoples. We might contest, of course, being the Irish that we are, that St. Brendan might have made it to the Americas long before, but we don't have any exact evidence for that. It's more anecdotal, I would think. But anyway, lovely, Our Lady of the Pilar today. So she had promised apparently St. James that when he needed it most in his difficult mission to the pagans in today's Spain, she would appear to him to encourage him. And in the year 40 A.D., while praying one night on the Turbert bank, the Virgin appeared with the child Jesus standing on a pillar and asked St. James and his 8 disciples to build a church on the site, promising that it will stand from that moment until the end of time, in order that God may work miracles and wonders through my intercession for all those who place themselves under my patronage, Our Lady is said to have said to him. The Church of Our Lady of the Pilar, Nuestra Señora del Pilar, in Zaragoza, is the first church dedicated to Mary in history, and it remains standing to this day, having survived invasions and wars. In the Spanish Civil War of 1936 to 1939, 3 bombs were dropped on the church and none of them exploded. So it obviously survived the Muslim invasion of Spain too. That's no small promise that Our Lady has made and has fulfilled. Our Lady is also said to have given the small wooden statue of the apparition to St. James, which now stands on a pillar in the church. So very good, nice to see that, and nice to celebrate a Marian feast today. And as Nuria was saying, she said that Dublin is, there's a lot of Spanish people visiting Dublin at the moment, because yesterday too was a bank holiday, so they get a long weekend out of it as well. So the first Marian apparition in history appearing to St. James. There's how we know Nuestra Señora del Pilar. And unlike every other recorded apparition, this one took place during the earthly life of the Mother of God. So, you know, St. Pio, Padre Pio, was known and proven, in fact, to have been in 2 places at the same time. Why would not Our Lady not be able to do such a thing too, with the grace of God, of course, too? So, lovely place. I must visit there sometimes, Zaragoza. So, and Christopher Columbus, and of course, taking her as patron too to all Hispanic peoples. Nice. So I didn't know that till Nuria had mentioned it to me there as well. And today as well, a optional memorial too for Blessed Carlo Acutis, or Acutis, not sure how that's pronounced exactly. At any rate, he's a young man who died relatively recently, 2006, in Italy, born in 1991. It's only 15 years of age, and yet an extraordinary young man who, from a relatively ordinary family, and not great faith there, it has to be said, I don't think either, but developing a great love for the Holy Eucharist, and was an amateur computer programmer, best known for documenting Eucharistic miracles around the world and cataloguing them onto a website, miracolieucharistici.org. So eucharisticmiracles.org. If you look it up, you'll find it very easily. I used to use it myself back in around 2008 or so, when I was teaching in a secondary school. Would just pull down stuff from Carlo's website and use it in school. Very useful, very extraordinary young man. So he's not yet canonized a saint. He's a blessed, but certainly an example for young people, and well worth looking up. We've certainly spoken about him here at length, and there's plenty of YouTube clips there to look up and to watch as well. Lots of information about Blessed Carlo Acutis there. So, very good. Nice to share yet another great saint. The pictures of him too are very interesting as well. And indeed, in his tracksuit, he buried in his tracksuit there, so very appropriate model for young people. He was diagnosed, of course, with leukemia and offered his sufferings for Pope Benedict XVI and for the Church, saying, I offer all the suffering I will have to suffer for the Lord and for the Pope and for the Church. So it was 2005, I think, wasn't it, when Pope St. John Paul II died, so in his last year of his life, offering his suffering for Pope Benedict. So buried in Assisi at his request because of his love for St. Francis of Assisi. His calls for canonization began in 2013, declared venerable in 2018, and blessed just in 2020 last year. So well worth again looking up and learning a little bit more about. His own witness to faith helped his mother on her path to conversion to faith as well. It says his calls for canonization, by promoting the cause, managed to drag his relatives and his parents to Mass every day. It wasn't their normal practice, let's say. It wasn't the other way around by all accounts. So wherever that faith, it really was supernatural, the gift of faith that was given to him. He was known for defending other boys and girls at school who got picked on, and especially disabled children. When a friend's parents were getting divorced, Carlo made a special effort to include his friend in the Acutis family life to help him at that difficult time. So he documented all the Eucharistic miracles on his website and had some nice little sayings of his own as a young man. The more often we receive the Holy Eucharist, the more we will become like Jesus, so that on this earth we will have a foretaste of heaven. And that's simply the teaching of the Holy Eucharist as well. We know he only allowed himself to play computer games for an hour a week as a penance and a spiritual discipline. But of course, like any young boy at 15, would most certainly have wanted to play a lot more video games. He had a PlayStation, PS2 at the time. So there's a little word out to young boys particularly, who can get so easily caught up in that whole world of video games, and the dangers that accompany video games as well, I might say, by way of violence or other content, not healthy for the soul by any means. Initially there were reports that his body was found to be incorrupt, but the entire body was present when it was exhumed, but not incorrupt. However, he lay in repose in a glass tomb where he was venerated by pilgrims until October 2020 last year, and displayed in jeans and a pair of Nikes, the casual clothes that he preferred. His heart, which can now be considered a relic, is displayed in a reliquary in the Basilica of St. Francis of Assisi. His mother said that his family had wanted to donate his organs when he died, but were unable to do so because of leukemia. So they obviously granted permission that his heart be placed in the Basilica in Assisi. Isn't that nice to know that either? Some nice useful facts there in relation to Carlo Acutis. Very good. So these great saints, these lovely celebrations and feast days, just to give us a little lift today. And God is still raising up great saints to the altar and to his church. Now please do get in touch, do drop a comment here on our Facebook and YouTube channels. We'd love to hear from you as always. Do ring us up on 014-123-456. Do text and email, do WhatsApp actually as well, 089-467-2000. And if you're in the north or further afield, just put a +353 in front of that, 894672000, or +353 14123-456. Again, email info@radiomaria.ie and write to us here at St. Anthony's Business Park, Ballymount Road, Dublin 22. We do love to get your correspondence, and we love to hear from you by whichever way. Our 40 days and 40 nights of adoration continues here in our studio chapel. If that's something you'd like to sign up for and commit yourself to an hour or 2 or 3 or overnight, as some indeed are doing as well, you would be very welcome to do so. We're 20 days into the 40 days, so halfway through, and a huge thank you to all who have made it possible for adoration to continue here, and thanks to John and Paula especially, who are organising and helping that work to continue and to allow there to be an attendance right throughout each and every day. So do please get in touch with us. We'll pass your details on to John and Paula. They'll get in touch and slot you in if you'd like to fit in a visit between this and the end of the 40 days, which will be the 1st of November next. Again, 089 467 2000. You might like to travel. We've had people travelling from all corners of Ireland up to the studio here to spend time in adoration, and we've been immensely grateful for all of those who have attended so far. And just an assurance for you too, all our dear listeners and friends who can't otherwise make it to the studio but who would like to, that you are all in our prayers always. So we thank you for that support that you give us from a distance likewise. And indeed to those, Sheila and Jean, Terry, and there were others too, Catherine, who promised to pray along with us, albeit remotely, not able obviously to come in to visit, but who will pray along with us. So thank you so much for that as well. Big thank you as well, if I may. Ruth and myself went to visit Derry, Cregan, the parish of Cregan there in the Bogside in Derry, and had a lovely visit, I must say. And it just struck me as we were driving up the hill there to the church, this could have been anywhere in the north side of Cork City. It just looks so, the geography and the houses, and just the church could have been any one of the churches on the north side of Cork. It just had a lovely feel about it, of home, but nonetheless in Derry. And we're so grateful. We were so kindly received. Eddie was the sacristan there who kept an eye and looked after things for us. But Father Joe Gormley, the parish priest, more than kind to us, and indeed Father Daniel McFall was very generous with his time and his support likewise, and it was lovely to meet the retired priest from Leeds, Father Jerry White it was. So lovely to meet the three priests there, and lovely parish. And they've had some very generous benefactors as well. They've been very good to raise funds. They've renovated the whole church. It was a cruciform shape with two wings, obviously, of the shape of the cross, forming part of the space for worship, but both transformed, with the renovation. They spent an awful lot of money on it, but it's very beautiful now. So they turned one wing into an area for bathrooms and support of that sort, and the other side of the church, the other wing, is now a Divine Mercy Chapel. And I'm kicking myself because I forgot to take a picture. I hope there's pictures online. They have two life-size statues of Pope St. John Paul II and St. Faustina in the back of their Divine Mercy Chapel. Very impressive, and I would think the only such statues of that scale that I've seen anywhere in Ireland. Let me know if I'm wrong. There may be others, but just lovely, two fine statues of these two great saints. Lovely to see it, and great love and faith in the Divine Mercy there in Cregan, and a great ministry of confession in the parish. Just delighted to see that. So a big shout out and a big thank you to one and all who met us and shared with us, and all who included their prayer intentions. Ruth has been busy yesterday and today adding those prayers into our WhatsApp prayer list, so you'll be hearing those echoed throughout the days. And please be assured again, we include all of those prayer intentions in our masses here and in all our times of prayer. So it was a really nice visit, and a big thank you to Noreen and Kevin, Noreen O'Neill there in Omagh. And we had been to visit Omagh before. We'd met Noreen, wonderful supporter of Radio Maria, and was so kindly hosted us and put us up and looked after us so well indeed. So to Kevin and Noreen, immensely grateful, just great supporters of the radio and helping us to get the word out in the parish of Cregan, in the city of Derry. We went to visit afterwards, actually I'll post the picture maybe on our Facebook page as well. We went to visit the grave of Sister Claire Crockett. How could we not do so? Sister Claire, please God, again will be like another Carlo Acutis. Will one of the days, please God, be declared venerable, that, well, at least that her cause will be formally introduced. There's great popularity there when you drive into the cemetery. It's well signposted as to where Sister Clare's grave is. And as it turns out, it was Father McFall who was accompanying us and just showing us the way. He knew the geography of the city, of course. And we literally got 2 parking spaces for the 2 cars next to Sister Clare's grave. It just couldn't have been arranged any better there. And interestingly too, we went to pray. We went to the upper part of the cemetery there where John Hume is buried. Very, very simple headstone there in his grave. And we prayed and thanked God for the witness of his life. And his dear wife Pat, who only died relatively recently, that she was his mainstay and his support in the peace process in the north. So we went to pray there. And we went to pray at the grave of Martin McGuinness and all of those who were killed so tragically in the Troubles. Again, you know, it's easy to maybe look at all the violence that took place on both sides and to condemn, but we were simply just visiting there to pray and invoke God's blessing on all our dear friends, certainly in these troubled areas, for continued peace, and thanking God for the great peace efforts that were made and that were necessary. You know, sides had to back down, had to be open, had to be willing to extend a hand of friendship. And there's that lovely statue across the wall that divided the Derry walls. It's on the roundabout there on the north side of the river as you drive over, and 2 hands extending, greeting and shaking hands, as if to symbolize the making of peace between both sides there in Derry. So huge strides having been made since the Good Friday Agreement to try to establish a peaceful coexistence. Not without tension still, and not without certain underlying, obviously, historical grievance and hurt, and certainly a deep woundedness naturally when we see the taking of life so tragically in all the troubles that has passed through the Derry city and the north as a whole. So let us be a little voice, a small voice maybe of friendship, a small voice of prayerful support and encouragement to all our dear friends in the north of Ireland. And just lovely again, as I say, to visit Derry and to extend that hand of greeting and friendship, and to say we're journeying with you in faith and in solidarity and in communion and in that journey to peace, which is so fragile, so fragile. So we keep praying for that and praying together for that too. So it was lovely to do that, and thanks to Noreen as well, we went on the tour of the walls of Derry. That was a real education for me, I have to admit. Being from Cork and so far south, we were not so familiar here in the south with all that transpires in the north of Ireland. So just lovely to sort of enter in on that and get a sense at least of the history and the troubles and everything accompanying that too. Used to try to teach in my own tin pot way, I have to admit, because again in my ignorance, but teach a little bit about that to the students in school, and especially the apology that David Cameron announced around the time when I was in the school in relation to the unjustified and unjustifiable deaths that occurred during Bloody Sunday. That was quite a historical moment, and I played that video back a number of times for students in class to help them understand the gravity and the momentousness of that particular statement and that situation, especially for all the family members and the innocent victims who were killed, a lot of them young men, young boys even. So this sad wound in our country, this deep wound in our country that we're just mindful of, and again mindful indeed of the sad violence in Omagh back in 1998 too. We chatted a little bit about that, but it's a very painful and sore wound again. But just mindful that where we are today, as the tour guide was saying, you know, some of these things that have taken place since were unthinkable a number of years ago, by way of bringing sides together and giving expression to peace. And the murals around the walls of the city of Derry telling their own story. And nice to see the mural actually as well of Sister Claire Crockett. That's nice, because there's a symbol for peace as well. So it was, I must say, a lovely visit, very formative for me in many ways, and just lovely to meet all the wonderful people of Cregan Parish in Derry, and to thank you so much for your hospitality and your kindness to us. And thanks again to Father Joe and Father Daniel, excuse me, and Father Jerry as well, also kind to us. So God bless you all and well done. We enjoyed that, and we do hope Noreen is all fired up and great energy. Please God, we'll get to return to the north again, mentioning places like Enniskillen and Fermanagh, and who knows where else. We'll certainly keep on the road as best we can, and as our energies and as our time and as our support allows. And hopefully indeed there will have many more such supporters come forward from the north of Ireland to help us to again extend this greeting of friendship from Radio Maria, and to get many more dear listeners and friends to join in our prayerful presence in your home. So that was a really enjoyable visit now, I must say, and very, as I say, very formative for me as well, educational I suppose in so many ways. So very good. That's marvellous. All that is very good news, I must say, and all very encouraging too. Now we do hope to have Father Michael O'Sullivan come to visit us. He came into the studio, was it maybe this time last year certainly, and he has come back from the missions from the Middle East, where he spent years and years working in Saudi Arabia. It was certainly a lot of the Middle Eastern countries, and now he's heading up as National Director of Missio Ireland. This is the Mission Month, of course, and 24th of October is the World Mission Sunday. And so he'll come in and he'll chat to us, and just to show you on the camera, there's a little booklet and a huge resource pack of all kinds of things that they've obviously been preparing all year long, by way of posters and advertising, and the booklets that to accompany, and prayers and so on for the celebration of Mission Sunday. Let me see if I can open up the poster here. We'll put it on display maybe as well for you for when Father Michael comes to visit. I'll show it on the camera here. You can hear the paper rattling now if you're listening on the radio. And World Mission Sunday. Building peace in Nigeria is a theme there. There's such great persecution of the church in so many places, but certainly Nigeria is certainly one of those. www.missio.ie. I'll just fill that up there and give just a few little thoughts. Excuse me. This year, World Mission Sunday will take place over the weekend of the 24th of October. Its message is from the Acts of the Apostles. We cannot remain silent. We cannot but speak about what we have seen and heard. That's in the Acts. So the Apostles had to go out and proclaim the good news. How could they not? So it's one of hope for our day. Remember, I was reflecting just a little bit earlier on the first letter of St. Paul to the Romans, that first chapter that we're just reading and hearing at daily Mass, how so many, and it's true of our own day, fail to see the evidence of God in creation around us, and have turned away from the things of God, and in turning away then have simply embraced the world or the self or all of these superficialities really, which don't lead to fulfillment or happiness. They may be paths of pleasure for a time, but are so short-lived. It's only when we turn inwards and turn towards God and turn back outwards, as it were, to be charitable, to give, as the gospel demanded of us today, to give alms, and then you will be clean on the inside, not just all those externals that the world would have us focus on. With the Lord, very different. It's within, so cleansing within, and giving alms, our time, our talent, our treasure, and in the giving of ourselves away, which is the Christian way of living, there is great fulfillment to be found, great hope. So going off and speaking about what we've seen and heard, is giving away our faith, is a lovely way again to grow and deepen our own faith. The world is in urgent need of missionaries, those who can offer a prophetic voice and remind us that everything we received from God is meant to be shared freely with others. In many of our poorer parishes in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, it is missionaries who are providing this prophetic voice. However, they desperately need our help if they are to continue to serve our marginalized brothers and sisters, such that for them we cannot remain silent. You know, the Lord's own admonition, the poor you will have with you always. And that task is always there. There will never be a time, I don't suppose, when poverty will be altogether relegated until such time as the Lord Christ can reign in all hearts. It's the only ultimate way to eradicate poverty, when, as it were, we all live in poverty of spirit. And we're all willing to share and to give. And that's when poverty will be eliminated. Not when we've reached a certain economic threshold of profitability. That's not in the Lord's equation of understanding things. World Mission Sunday, of course, faces pressure because of the pandemic. Yet again, the restrictions may mean less parishioners and less offerings. Nonetheless, the future implications for missionaries we need to keep in mind and help them to continue in their work of service. So it's an opportunity at Sunday Mass to give a little towards the activity of the mission. So there's quite a little resource pack here with a booklet, a toolkit, the Children's Mission Month resource, and Mission Sunday Mass is there. It's Oscuelga freshen, that's good. I must make use of that. Maybe I must just dig it out there. Perhaps on the Fridays now I can make use of some of that as well. The Irish translation there for World Mission Sunday. So very good. We're looking forward to Father Michael dropping in to see us again. It'd be nice to see him. I'd try to encourage him to come to the microphone a little bit more often and tell us of great stories from the missions, and maybe put us in touch with missionary outposts or Irish missionaries who are still working today, that we can hear from them. So let's see, there's a collection of daily reflections and things here. Let me dig out the 12th of October. Bishop Martin Drennan offers a few thoughts here as well. Those who drink the water should never forget those who dug the well. That's a nice, it's an Oriental proverb. And in the first chapter of his letter to the Romans, St. Paul directs us to a few wells that can inspire our mission. Paul says that he is not ashamed of the gospel. It is wisdom from God that has the capacity to inspire, enthuse, and redirect lives. The conviction that he has a really good message is his starting point for mission. I was mentioning that now this morning. Yesterday it was, I think, those opening passages of the first chapter of the letter to the Romans are like a mission statement, very much so. God is present in power in his word. That presence can break through resistance. It can open hearts and minds in unexpected ways. And that's our hope here at Radio Maria, that our preaching, our missionary work here, that God's word will be heard and penetrate perhaps the darkness of lives. The gospel is the power of God, and that belief gives us confidence then for mission. And a third and final point from Bishop Drennan there as well. Bishop Drennan is a retired bishop of Galway. He lectured me in New Testament studies in Maynooth. Absolutely terrific lecturer, great priest, and it was just lovely that everybody made sure to attend all his classes. He was sort of a walking bibliography, what's the right word? Bibliothèque, like a walking library of the scriptures. Extraordinary man. Thank God for his great teaching. So he goes on, he says, Paul is clear on what he offers. He describes how life without God has spawned behavior unworthy of human beings, resulting in forms of perversion and degradation. Now, he could be writing that today. We know that only too well. He is sure that a living relationship with God will bring a wholesome relationship with people. Jesus makes this possible. He came to guide us into the way of peace. He brings true freedom. He enabled Paul to make peace with his past and find the freedom to commit his life to service of God and his people. Paul seeks to pass on what he has received. Unless we give God to others, we give them too little. Great expression. That's a quote from Pope Benedict XVI. Unless we give God to others, we give them too little. Mighty. That's just a reflection there in the Missio booklet that I'm just quoting from, Mission Month booklet. So well done to Father O'Sullivan, all involved with his team, organising the resources there for the Mission Month. Look at this. There's so many things in here. It's great. Now we'll get him. He'll be speaking to us anyway next Friday morning, please God. So stay tuned. We'll chat more with Father Michael there. Now let's pause for a little piece of music, just by way of interlude, and I'll come back to you very shortly, and just share with you reactions there as well to some thoughts as well. Now, I'm not sure if we have a little piece of music lined up. Jesus, I hope, has something appropriate in mind there. And let me see if there is any text to let me know. No, there isn't there. So I'll trust in you. In the meantime, I'll ask and invite you to text in or drop a message here on Facebook and YouTube, or send us in a text on 089 467 2000. Email us info@radiomaria.ie, and indeed do give us a call on 014 123 456. So thanks, Jesus.
Abide with me, fast falls the eventide, the darkness deepens, Lord, with me abide, when other helpers fail and comforts flee. Help of the helpless, oh, abide with me. Swift to its close, ebbs out life's little day. Earth's joys grow dim, its glories pass away. Change and decay in all around I see. Oh, thou who changest not, abide with me. Hold thou thy cross before my closing eyes, shine through the gloom.
Hello, this is Patricia Keane from Health and Faith Matters on Radio Maria. Radio Maria depends on the goodwill and generosity of their listeners to support their Trojan work. Your donation means that extra resources can be used to reach more people, sometimes very isolated and lonely in remote parts of the country. On my Tuesday programme, I have
30.
to find the facts to present them to you. So this week, I'm asking you to dig deep and support the life-changing work of Radio Maria. So just go, pick up that phone and pledge whatever you can. God bless you all, and thank you for listening to Radio Maria.
Welcome back to Radio Maria Ireland. Thanks for your company. That was Abide With Me from Holy Family Mission there in Glencumra, Patrick Al and friends. And I'm not sure, I think the voice, Ruth's voice is on that CD too as well. It may well be her singing there, in fact, as well. Ruth, as you know, has started as our new promoter here on Radio Maria Ireland, replacing Sarah, and it was very nice and lovely to see Sarah popping in to visit yesterday as well, and to chat things through with Ruth and to help her in the transition over to the work of promotion as well. And lovely that Ruth certainly got her feet wet. She got everything wet, I think, at the weekend with our visit to Cregan likewise. So it was a first all round for her there, and a chance for her to get familiar with and to get more into the work of promotion there too. So there you go. So Dermot, thanks for your text, and thanks to Mary Byrne, to Maria de Lourdes, and all who are watching in here on Facebook as well. Nice to have your company here with us as well. So now I'm not inclined to give too much time or too much wind or oxygen really to any kind of secular commentary on the faith or on the church. It is a propensity of secular sources to trot out the usual kind of stuff that we're familiar with, and if there's a dissenting priest to be found, the secular media will certainly give him all the microphone time he wants. They won't be asking me out on a date anytime soon. And generally speaking, if a sound priest is available and manages to get some time on secular sources, it's very often the case that he's crowded out or ridiculed or talked down or talked over or pushed aside or just treated as old-fashioned, etc., etc., etc. And many, many moons ago, I long since switched off many of those secular sources. When you hear that stuff coming on, is there any point in even listening? And they give oxygen to these things, and it's a bit, it's a little bit frustrating, really. So my advice on all those things is not to listen to that stuff, not to tune into that stuff. Don't give it oxygen. Don't even talk about it. Let it pass on, because all those who dissent, sadly, from the church, I suppose we need to bring them to prayer and ask the Lord to bless them and to open their hearts to serve the church as they ought to, and that if these priests who might have grievances or begrudgery or have issues or axes to grind and so on, I would love to see some of that energy, maybe all of that energy, rather being put into the work of the mission of the church and the task at hand to reach souls, rather than take issue with the church over one thing or another. I can't see how that's actually helpful in the long run. And you just wonder sometimes, is there an unhappiness there that needs to be addressed, or is there something that else underneath the surface that needs to be addressed there too? So it's better, the way that you can, if for instance you were to do that in the family home, to try this for an analogy the same way, if it is that the son or daughter or the husband or wife is kind of toxifying the air a little bit with resistance or with complaints or with arguing or with simply undermining or selfish behaviour, all those kinds of things can really do a lot of damage in the home and in the family and generate disagreement and disunity. And if it is they want, for whatever reason, things done their way, or things should be done this way or that way, and again undermining rightful authority, how can that work in the home? In any other walk of life, if you were in a business, if you were in employment, and you start doing that with your employer and start questioning all the crazy things that you perceive to be at issue, depending on how you go about it, you might get listened to if it's reasonable and if there's grounds for the question. But if it is that this is how this company does what it does, then who am I to bring a hurley to a golf course if I think it should be played with a hurley? So these kind of things can just be so disruptive, and they can be so upsetting. I myself just prefer not to listen to them. It's better to continue with a wholesome upbuilding formation that helps to build our faith and strengthen our faith, and not give too much oxygen to these things. Maybe good to listen to know what's being said, but again, to approach it in the light of the gospel and in all charity, because this isn't either you're not in the business of condemnation or in any of these other things, and that doesn't work in the home either. If it is there's somebody who's not helping harmony in the home, standing up on a pedestal and condemning isn't always the healthiest way to bring that wayward family member back around. And while it's a painful thing and it hurts and it's hard to hear and to cope with, our own solidarity, our own journey with those experience this pain. And sometimes these kind of complaints or this kind of rebelliousness is really a manifestation of a cry for help, maybe a cry for support, a calling out for some kind of attention, coming from a hurt of some kind. That's as true in the family or in a business as it is in the church anywhere. If people are again taking issue for whatever reason, maybe there's something deeper that needs to be attended to. In which case, yes, by all means, we pay attention to that and look to that. But if it's a case of just belly aching and grumbling and complaining for the sake of complaining, again, we have to just simply question that and wonder what's at stake there. So it's just a small little bit of a few thoughts on that. Do share your thoughts on it as well. Do connect in with me and pursue that conversation a little bit further if we ought to as well, need to. But we see in the holding fast to the teaching of the church, the magisterium of the church, in service and in humility and in almsgiving. That's what the gospel teaches us today. We find a far better path of peace. We might find ourselves opposed, or might find ourselves used or abused maybe at times in terms of our charity. Now I'm thinking, you might give and get little in the way of thanks for it. Such is the nature of Christ on the cross. See, it's a very different model that he proposes to us. It's not one of being all things to all people, or being popular with everybody, or, making a name for ourselves or any of these other things. We're called to service. We're called to the laying down of our lives, and that's a painful journey. That's not always an easy task. But this is the way of the Lord. This is the way of Christ that he has taught us. So very good, and just a few other stories there that I'll have to come back to tomorrow. The bishops of Ireland going to Knock to celebrate Mass in memory of all who died during the pandemic. That will take place on the 14th of November. There's time enough to refer back to that again, and we'll refer to the World Youth Day 2023 taking place in Lisbon in Portugal too. Great to see that announced and going ahead as well. Good, our time has drifted on. It's approaching 12 o'clock. I'll take my leave. Wish you God bless, and thanks for being with me visually. Stay with us audibly now as we'll pause for our Angelus and midday prayer.